Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are back in the Update Winged Lions dev server and it's time to have a look at a new aircraft. This is the Seafire LF Mk.III and this is going to be coming to the British tree, but also it's going to be coming to the French tech tree as well. So this is going to be a double banger, which is always pretty fun. In aviation terms, for France, it's coming between the King Cobra and the F-8 F-1B, which makes the most sense. And then when it comes to the British version of the Seafire LF Mk.III, this machine is coming between, well, the Firebrand and the other Seafires, which also makes sense. When it comes to the other Seafires that are in the game, when it comes to War Thunder, what you're looking at is the Griffin Seafires. The Seafire first one, the F Mark 18, is pretty fun. The FR-47 is quite unique with, of course, the 20mm and also the Griffin with the Contra propeller going. And with this one, though, the LF Mk.III Seafire, this is a specific Seafire which has access to a Merlin engine, the Merlin 55M, which is why it is much more similar to the Mark II Spitfire or the Mk.IX Spitfire, instead of stuff such as the later Spitfires like the Mark 22 and the Mark 24. The armament is also very reminiscent of early Spitfires, with having access to two 20mm and also four 7.7mm Browning machine guns, which have decent amounts of ammunition. I've always heard people complain about the Hispanos. As long as they're not default belts, and as long as you're using like air targets or stealth, I've never really had an issue with them. Default belts, they are actually terrible, but after that, once you get rid of those ball rounds, they're not too shabby. The 55M is also kind of significant because there was actually a few other Mk.III Seafires, the FR Mk.III and the F Mk.III, and they had a different engine to this one. So the LF Mk.III gets the 55M, which is unique to it when it comes to War Thunder, and it gives it a maximum power of 1060 horsepower, which is pretty nice. It should be a very flexible little fighter, just like a lot of the other machines are for the Spitfire or the Seafire family in the British tree. It also has quite a lot of armor modeled as well, with some steel on the back, some bulletproof glass, and also some steel in these little areas too, which is pretty nice. Modifications wise, it doesn't get access to any secondaries, and this is because at least the early Spitfires and Seafires are normally seen as air superiority fighters, and so should they be. They are pretty much just air superiority fighters. They are fantastic at their job though. They should never ever be looked down upon. They work incredibly well in this role. Hopefully this one will fill a similar role as well to the others, which are already in the game. It does also get the expansion of the Hispano cannons, something which isn't unique to Hispanos, but is always nice to see, where you have the new cannons, then the 1942 variant, and also the 1943, giving it better spread as it goes along. Doesn't get extra fuel or anything like the Octane, but it does get engine injection and cover to give it a lot more of a boost. It'll be interesting to see how this thing manages its engine, because one of the problems, especially the Mark 9 has in game, is being able to manage its engine effectively and not running it out of steam, because it actually overheats quite easily, especially using a lot of war emergency power. So that might be a problem for pilots when it comes to the vehicle itself. But to have another Spitfire in game, or Seafire as I should say, the main difference between the Spitfire and the Seafire is the arrestor hook, and also the Seafire being used by the Royal Navy, where the Spitfire was used by the Royal Air Force. So used for different roles, generally used in different areas, but mostly, predominantly, very, very similar vehicles. The LF Mk.III at 5.0 should fit pretty well in the area. Obviously we have the F Mark 9 Spitfire at 4.3, which has the 61 engine, which has a little bit more horsepower behind us. But one thing that the Mk.III is missing is a bunch of camouflages. One of the nice things about the Spitfires is a lot of them get a ton of camos. This one only gets the standard one, which kind of sucks. But also the French, they get their camouflage, which I actually think looks much nicer than the British one when it comes to having the red nose on it, which I think is fantastic. So yeah, it would be nice to see some more camouflages on this. Maybe at some point we will see more camouflages because of the access to the markets that people have nowadays. So when we look at this vehicle, one of the things that is normally said about these Spitfires is they don't have a ton of firepower and they're very good at maneuvering, but not too much good at anything else. As the Spitfires go up in BR, one of the things that they increase in doing well in is not just its overall rate of climb, but also what it improves on. Hey. Love those little things. It doesn't just improve on its rate of climb, it doesn't just improve on its maneuverability. One of the things that the later tier Spids or the mid-tier Spids do much better than the early ones is its dive. And at 5.0 you start running into machines which are pretty good at diving, so you can't always defensively fly. Sometimes you do have to chase targets around and try and take them out, and luckily with this Spitfire and stuff like the Mk.IX you'll be able to do it much easier compared to some other ones. I can't tell you how much fun it is for me to be able to playing Spitfires again. I know I'm in a very unique position when it comes to War Thunder, but I have spaded all of the Spitfires in the game. I've spaded all of them, plus the Seafires, and I really enjoy playing them. And as a person who generally doesn't go back to vehicles once I've spaded them, it is absolutely wonderful to see two more in the game, which are going to have similar characteristics to the F Mk.IX and the LF Mk.IX, just because they are just so fun to play as general vehicles. Like, what you have from these Spitfires is maneuverability. You have the ability to just push yourself around, do a ton of damage with the 20s, and then go home and you know, defensively fly against what you face and just survive over and over and over again, moving around and having a good time against the enemy. For me, there's not things which are much better in War Thunder than just kind of defensively flying for a minute or two, or maybe even 5 or 10 against 2 or 3 separate targets in the Spitfire, and then being able to get the better of them as long as they're not a zero. For me, there's just nothing in War Thunder which is better than it, and that's why I'm looking forward to these machines. They're not going to be the best in the business. They're not going to be ones which you know, you massively want to play. There's already those Spitfires around. The Mk.22, the Mk.50, the Mk.24, stuff such as the Mk.2B as well, which is fantastic, and the F Mk.IX. But this is just going to be another one which is going to be very fun to play, and one which hopefully many people will enjoy. And you can see with the guns, sometimes they do damage, sometimes they don't, but the main thing to understand is, at least with the Hispanos, you will be able to do enough to take out targets. The question is not if you can kill a target, the question is, do you have enough rounds to carry a game? And if that is the question that you have to answer, it's much better than the first one, which is, you know, do I even have enough to kill one? I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Professor X 1718, Orange Tail, Sakoshi Tiger, BRFC 15, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe A, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, and then Kyle Kin, Barine, Lafouche, and also Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.